let Michele go ahead and start sharing her screen and give her presentation. Welcome, Michele.
There we go. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here and look forward to an interactive presentation. I apologize that I'm not here with you on video, but I live in the work that I do, which means that I deal with rural internet on a regular basis. And someone took out our DSL line at the end of my road a couple of days ago. So I'm sure I will be without internet for a couple of weeks. So I'm actually operating in my office manager's office this morning, and I'm hoping that everything holds up really well. I would encourage you throughout the presentation, if you have questions, thoughts, challenges, ideas that you would like to share. I really enjoy the opportunity to be able to talk to people rather than just a computer screen. So please feel free to do that. And I have worked as a professional speaker and author in agricultural advocacy and having difficult discussions for over 20 years. I entered the mental health space probably about 5 years ago and have since developed a few different products to try to help farmers and veterinarians and ranchers and others in agriculture to deal with the incredible amount of stress that we face in our business. And I guess I'd be curious in the chat box if any of you could share your background. I always like to know who I'm talking to. If you're a counselor or if you're working in extension or if you're a farmer or rancher yourself, that would help me to know exactly who I'm talking with. So if you want to enter that in the chat box, that would be fabulous. And I will try to keep an eye on it here as we go forward. So, except for I can't do that without you all seeing that. So one of the things that I think is really important when you look at mental health and agriculture is that we are very much in a society or a type of group culture, if you will, of agriculture, where people very much believe in taking care of their own problems. They want to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, and consequently, our mental health suffers as a part of it. And one of the things that I always talk with people about and address throughout Agriculture's Growth Journal that I'll talk with you in a few minutes is to help people understand that if we can't expect our crops, our animals, our land, or our barns to grow in unhealthy conditions, how can we expect people to grow when we have challenges too? It is very much time to change the conversation. I personally have had a friend die by suicide back in my early 20s, and her picture remains in my office today because I very much believe that this is a problem that we have to be able to do a better job of addressing. And I hope that you all will join me in that. It's really interesting if you look at farmer behavioral health, it is positively correlated to crop production and healthy animals. As an example, we've had a pink eye breakout with our dairy cattle on our farm now. We only have a very small herd. It's primarily for showing. They're primarily my daughters. And I have been dealing with pink eye nonstop for the last couple of days. And I can assure you, it has raised my stress level substantially. So I think this is something that if you're in agriculture, you know the correlation clearly between a good crop year or a great health with your animals and so forth. Clearly, agriculture has been under tremendous financial stress, weather stress, input stress, etc. And one of the things that I emphasize is to really make sure that those that are in agriculture understand that they were not created as a farmer, they were created as a human being first. And I do believe this is why one of the problems that we have in agriculture is that identification piece. So many farmers and ranchers identify with what they do more so than who they are. They believe that if they can't farm or ranch, or if they can't be a veterinarian, that perhaps their life isn't worth living. So that is one of the biggest reasons why I believe that we happen to have an issue. And I see, finally looking here at the chat box, that we have lots of people with agriculture experiences as well. So I'm sure you have seen this. And it is one that I believe sets the mental health piece apart in agriculture from other occupations, is because we aren't just working, we are living where we work. And if we lose that lifestyle, if we lose that business, if we lose that sense of purpose, unfortunately, many people, particularly men, but many people really lose their identity. And I know that from personal experience. My parents lost our farm to bankruptcy. It affected me for years. It probably still affects me today. So I have published 3 books, I guess now, mostly around agricultural advocacy. The most recent one is food bullying. And a few years ago, as I entered this space, I knew that we needed to do a better job. And we needed to do a better job of being able to talk through, sorry, my slides are going crazy here, of being able to talk through the tools that people need. And the challenge that we have is that no one really wants to read a book on mental health, right? No farmer that I know is probably going to pick up a book on mental health and well-being. That's just the reality. It's not who we are. So I created Agriculture's Growth Journal. It was just released. There's actually an opportunity in there for people to write down their records, to be able to write down their data. Or if you're really ticked off at your brother-in-law, it's also a great place to write that down too. And that was just released, as I said, and we're just starting to ship them out now. I've been very excited because they've been a part of a couple of grants that have gone in around mental wellness. They can be branded. You can add your own message to them. And the reason why I think this is important is you all know, probably just by virtue of being here, that stress has overtaken has overtaken weight actually as the top health condition being managed in the US. And we all know that we have been through undue amounts of stress. The challenge that we have is what to do about it. And what I try to do when I work with the agriculture community is to help them understand the scientific response to stress is not our choice. It's scientifically proven that our body will react to stress with physical, mental, and emotional responses. It doesn't mean you're crazy. Science says that stress is the body's reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or a response. And when you consider in the last handful of years, the type of stress that we've had, the changes that we've had, the constant innovation and change in agriculture can be good and it can be bad. And what I try to do is to help people look at it from a two-sided factors. We have risk factors. So we have weather, and we all know that Mother Nature has been on quite a tear this year. We have people who are flooded. We have people who are on drought. We have people who have fires. We have people who couldn't get their crops in, and those that can't get them out of the field. And so clearly there's all sorts of risk factors, even aside from weather. The markets are changing. We have consumers who clearly are constantly questioning what we do in agriculture. And there are other risks like working with family and isolation and so forth, what we'll get into later. But then when you look at the protective factors, our opportunity to be proactive, if you will, I'm sure you all know that there's cultural, there's social, there's family, psychological, and biological protective factors can go into it. And by the way, because of the fact that I cannot have the chat open without everybody taking a look at it, if you have questions, feel free to verbally give me those rather than in the chat, and I'm glad to try to address them throughout as well. So I hope that I haven't missed anybody, and if I have, just let me know and we'll be sure that we address them. And I will try not to talk too fast. I will tell you that I'm accustomed to talking for 60 minutes or more instead of 20, but I'm excited to be with you all today and hear your thoughts around this as well. So stepping back and looking at some of the risk factors, we've talked about weather. Isolation, I think because of the virtue of your work, you all know the fact that we work in a very isolating business. Whether you're in Montana out on a ranch or whether you're in Indiana, we're often working alone in the barn, in the field, and whatnot. And then you take a look at what's happened as a result of the pandemic. We're still facing distribution issues. We all know this. And we know that there's constant delays because of that, which is adding to our stress. Working with family, that's one that can be an incredible blessing and also a curse at the same time. And it does and certainly include a lot of stress. And we try to address several family business tips throughout the journal from experts like Jolene Brown and Shonda Salmons and others that have worked in that space a lot. And then other risk factors, of course, include all of the paperwork that's so prevalent in agriculture, equipment breaking down, long work days, the employees, the supervisors, the diseases in animals, the swinging markets. It's a nonstop machine, if you will. There's a lot of risk factors. And so what we try to do is to create a journal that has the space for people to write down thoughts. So there are actually blank pages where people can just write, record data. It's designed to throw in a glove box or a tractor cab. And throughout the journal, there's actually 50 plus tips that span from self-care to exercise. And it has a prompt question in there, a challenge, if you will, for the week, as well as the background information and links where people get more information. So it's essentially a journal and a book together. It does what I try to do in what I wrote personally and all the contributors that I had. And the contributors include farmers, veterinarians, dietitians, doctors, psychologists, and others with lived experience. What I tried to do was to encourage them to take a look at some of the pain points, like taking enough time to be able to go and sit with your family. And yes, you do need to exercise. And yes, you do need to eat right. Those types of things. As you may be aware, research actually also shows that chronic stress can lead to epigenetic changes, and it can also lead to shrinking your brain. And one of the things that I try to do is to bring the science to people of agriculture, because we all claim to love science, right? We want to answer consumers' questions with science. So what I try to do is to provide the science of the fact that we do have these chronic stressors. They are having negative physical and mental consequences, and you're not crazy. Just because you are having an issue around what's happening with all the stressors in our business, it does not make you weak, and it does not make you crazy. Let's see, I'm going to just run up here. Welcome to Tara as well. And if you have any questions, just let me know verbally, because I can't really check the chat box. Very quickly, and these symptoms I actually also included in the journal, as well as a couple of other pieces that I have written. Many people don't know what chronic stress looks like. They don't know what to look for in their friends and family, and they feel very uncomfortable in approaching them. And so one of the things that I have found through my research and through conversations with others is that we always have to make sure that we're helping people be comfortable in those tough conversations. If you have loved ones, friends, family, whomever it may be, where you've seen a huge change in their sleeping pattern, that is a significant red flag. If you have people who are suddenly not eating or overeating, again, their eating pattern has changed substantially. That is also a significant red flag, as is social withdrawal. One of my friends, Teresa Gilly, is actually considered a suicide survivor because her husband died by suicide. And one of the things that she said she missed was the fact that he withdrew socially from everything before he died by suicide. But also the obvious ones, like people being overwhelmed, the agitated body language, the constantly being tired, irritable, or anxious. If people are changing their daily use, increasing their use of alcohol and drugs, having headaches all the time, having a racing heart is usually a pretty substantial physical sign. And one of them that a lot of people don't know outside of agriculture is that there's typically a change in farm appearance associated. And it usually goes to one extreme or the other. One is that a farm suddenly becomes extremely neat, and that farmer or rancher is getting rid of everything that they own. Or the other one is a farm that has always been very organized, a farm that's always been organized goes into a bit more chaos. So those are some of the symptoms to look for in chronic stress. And again, the journal was developed to try to be able to manage stress proactively, because my hope is that we can help people understand that stress management has to be a part of a business management plan in 2022, 2023, and beyond. And that includes things like talking about the fact that you're stressed out and having enough guts to have the conversations with people. Those of you that are trained mental health professionals know the positive outcome of being able to encourage people to normalize this conversation and to talk about it. Likewise, taking a break. It's one of the hardest things to do in agriculture. Tell a farmer to take a break and they're likely to laugh in your face. But the reality is that we do have to make time for self-care. We do have to exercise. We do have to eat well. And at some point, honor the emotional cycle. We are human beings, we're not business machines, and we have to realize that emotions are a part of this. And so throughout the journal, what we tried to do is to highlight the ones that are really important. Sleep. How many of you make really good decisions when you don't get enough sleep? Every person that I have interviewed across probably 50 plus podcasts and asked to contribute to some of my mental wellness videos points to sleep. When they are depressed or experiencing anxiety or experiencing suicidal thoughts, likely sleep is one of the reasons, lack of sleep, that is one of the reasons as to why they're in that. And I always have fun when I'm speaking for live audiences and talking about exercise. So here's the deal. I know no one really wants to exercise, but the reality is that whether it's yoga on an old piece of equipment or whether it's making time to go to the gym or taking daily walks, we have to be able to do this because science clearly proves that the hormones and the positive benefits of exercise is worth the time. And yes, I know everyone is busy, but this is a critical piece. Personally, what I do to exercise is I force myself through standing appointments on my calendar to go to the gym and either spin or kickbox 3 times a week, because I know I'm not a nice person if I don't. And there's obviously also physical benefits. And nutrition. No, you can't sit on the floor and eat Doritos and drink Mountain Dew and think that you're going to feel good. And I know that no one wants to deal with the food police. However, there is clear research that shows that nutrition scientifically positively influences the brain as well as emotions, and it helps people deal with it. So, long way of saying, throughout the journal, what I tried to help people understand is that wellness is a state of action. It's not a state of being, and that we do have to take actions, whether it's writing in a journal, whether it's exercising, or whether if it's taking a hard look in our business of what we're really growing. So one of the things that I always like to tell people is this proverb, because I think it sums up the challenges in mental wellness beautifully, and it sums up the opportunity as well. If you want 1 year of prosperity, you can grow corn and beans, especially if you're trying to feed cattle right now, you know how much those things cost. If you want a decade of prosperity, you can grow peaches, you can grow almonds, you can grow apples. But if you want a lifetime of prosperity, this is about growing people. And being able to help the people of agriculture is critically important. So I think we have a couple minutes left for questions. I'll go ahead and leave this up on the screen so that you can connect with me. And does anyone have any questions, or Carrie, is there anything that came up throughout the rapid fire talk?
You guys go ahead and feel free to unmute and throw it out there. I had a really a moment when you were talking about managing stress that it's a perfect point, because farmers are always going to have stress. Like, there's never just going to be a time where farmers are stress free. So knowing that and learning to manage the stress, that is the key point. I think that farmers need to understand, hey, it's always going to be there, but let's teach you, let's learn how to manage it better so that you can control your emotions, your irritability, because we all know the roller coaster of farming. And I love the journal aspect. I became an avid journaler during my recovery from a car crash, and it felt odd at first because I'd really never done a whole lot of it before, but boy, I could puke out anything that I wanted to, and it left me. I just got to get it out without hurting anybody's feelings, without taking it out on anybody else. So I think having the prompts in the journal is a great thing, because some people are like, I don't know where to start. So having those quotes or those questions in there is a good starter for someone just starting to journal.
Well, thanks. And that's what my hope is that it's not just a journal, that it actually provides some of the background information. And I saw the one lady's comment about where suicide ranks, and I've seen the different statistics. There's different ways that you can certainly take a look at it. Quite frankly, I don't care if agriculture suicide ranks first or fourth. What I care about is that we do more to impact this problem, because if you also look at mental health services that are available to young people and what's happening with young people in rural communities, it's terrifying. So that's why I'm very passionate about this. And I saw someone else ask about the cost of the journal. So right now until October 1, when you check out through PayPal, if you mention this webinar, I will send you another one for free. So it's buy one, get one free. I think they're about $19 with shipping. You would think that I would remember that. People who order more than 50 can get a volume discount, and I'm glad to work with you on that as well. But it's free shipping that's included in everything on the website, because I know that it's very complicated. And no, I have not gotten it back up on Amazon yet. Just from a distribution standpoint, it's available through my website.
Yeah, and once you finish, maybe you can go ahead and post that link in the chat so people can just click right on it.
Yep, I sure can. That's no problem. Great idea. And I'll just pop out and see if there's any other. Yes, thank you for the stress resources. Any other questions that anybody would like to ask?
And you guys know Michele is a huge advocate in the agricultural world, and she's known a lot for her nutrition. So any questions about that are welcome as well.
See, I'm here in video now because I can take my slides down. So it's nice to see everyone's faces. Well,
Hey,
thank you
Michele,
for having me.
John with WSU Skagit County Extension, and I'm also a PI on one of the Farsan grants. And I'm just curious, from your perspective, what's the answer going to be for preventing suicides in ag? I mean, we all know what the problems are, and we've thrown a lot of mud at the wall, but we're still having suicides out there. So, what do you think it's going to take us to get over this?
Well, my honest answer is I don't know, but I do think that if we can make real strides in helping farmers and ranchers understand that they are a human being regardless of what they do. If they lose their farm or ranch, they're still a human being and they still have value. To me, that's where the answer lies, because I'll be honest, I don't particularly want to work in this arena. I had to be drug into it kicking and screaming because it's depressing, it's sad, it's horrible. But every time I hear about a veterinarian or a farmer or a rancher who dies by suicide, it breaks a little piece of my heart, because I wonder, well, what did we miss? And I really think that if we can hone in on the fact that people in our business are still people, even if they're not on a farm or ranch or not practicing as a vet, I really think there's some benefits there to overcome that. And obviously part of it is changing the culture of agriculture. I mean, how many of you that grew up on a farm or ranch ever thought that you'd be talking about mental health? That's just not a normal conversation to most people. It's becoming more so. But removing the stigma, as everybody says, and really just normalizing the fact that, hey, there's a lot of stress. These are some of the things that you can do. It's not that complicated. Let's talk about it. How was that for a long-winded answer, Don?
I think it's great. And I think it also solidifies a lot of the work that we're doing, at least in the West.
Yeah.
Carrie, do I have time for a question, or do you need to move on?
Go ahead, Kayla.
Okay. I'm Kayla. Nice to meet you. Question for the journal, which I love, just because I think it seems like farmers are very visually astute, and those senses are really important. What's your goal in distributing that journal? Like, is it direct to farmer? Is it how do you see that getting out to the farmers themselves?
Great question. And I will tell you that this is I'm putting it in here so I can have the link available to you guys. Basically, what my hope is and what has happened so far is that it will be a combination of companies purchasing them, going through different grant programs. So, for example, Merck Animal Health bought a large quantity of them and is distributing them out through their national sales team as gifts to their customers, both veterinarians and producers. As I'd mentioned, there's grants that have included my training and the journals as a part of this. My intent is that they're cost effective at a volume level. I'm happy to ship them out directly to farmers, and I've done that. I had numerous pre-orders, most of which were farmers that have followed along with agriculture's growth calendar that I had last year. So I will ship them out directly, but my hope is to have some support from different organizations like those that are on here, to be able to get them out to a larger quantity of people.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, Michele, we'll go ahead and let you put maybe your email in the chat so that if people want to talk to you a little bit more in like one-on-one or in more detail, they can just go ahead and copy and paste that. And then we are going to go ahead, we're going to fill in a little bit of the time that Frank was supposed to take with Dr. Tara Haskins. She's going to talk a little bit about AgriSafe's suicide prevention and safety week in September.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Can you hear me, Carrie, and see the screen?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, great. So fantastic, Michele. Loved your presentation. I'm not going to take up too much time because Cheryl, I know, has got some good stuff for us. But I did want to sort of plug our National Farm Health and Safety Week that's going to be occurring in a couple of weeks. And I just wanted to show those that are here of where they can go and register. And I kind of want to highlight 2 mental health webinars that we're going to have. So if you just go to AgriSafe's homepage, you'll see the National Farm Health and Safety Week here. And when you click onto that, it'll take you to the registration. That week is spread out through the September 19th through the 23rd. We're actually having 2-a-day webinars this year, and we're going to be offering an electronic badge for National Farm Safety and Health Week for those individuals that attend 3 or more webinars. So you'll get that electronic badge and you can put it on your signature line. It is free. And one change that we made this year is that when you register once, you actually register for all of the webinars, but you don't have to attend all the webinars. You can pick and choose which ones you want because we know everybody's busy. The couple that I wanted to highlight, so you can tell that each day sort of has a theme, but the 2 that I want to highlight for this audience today, first, I just want to give a plug to our colleague, Josie Rodolfi, that's going to be doing one on Wednesday on farm youth mental health, what we know and how to help. Sort of a nod to Michele's comments that she made about the importance of helping our rural youth with mental health, who oftentimes experience this farm stress in vicariously or through a third party manner. Can't forget those because they're going to be the future of agriculture. And then as well, we are going to be having on the Tuesday, September 20th, I'm really excited about this, putting time and distance between someone at risk of suicide and lethal means. This is Lisa Sullivan from the Texas Suicide Prevention Coalition, and she is going to be highlighting a training that they do called CALM. And that CALM is an acronym that stands for Counseling on Access to Lethal Means. If you're familiar with any of the statistics on suicide in agriculture, you may be familiar that in comparison to the individuals, the number of suicides that occur in the general population with a firearm, that rate in the general population is around 60%. In agriculture, it is 80%. And this just, certainly is attributed to the fact that firearms are many times tools on farms. They use them on a regular basis, but when someone becomes hopeless and helpless, they have greater access. So this CALM training is designed for healthcare professionals that are in the space when they are working with families to decide how are they going to limit access to all types of lethal means of suicide for someone they have identified as at high risk. It's really important. I have to tell you, as a healthcare professional, we understand the importance of limiting lethal means, but we don't get specialized training in how to have that conversation with someone that their identity could be connected to a firearm. This training has been very helpful for the veteran population. And so she's just going to sort of talk about access to lethal means in rural communities and give sort of a brief overview of the training. This is not to train someone to be adept in this hour, because the counseling on access to lethal means sometimes is a multiple day training, but it'll give you an idea of what this training is about and see if this might be something you could implement in your region. So please join us for the week. I'm going to stop sharing and turn it back over to you, Carrie.
All right. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Tara before we move on to Cheryl?
And I'm going to put the link to the registration in the chat. Okay, Carrie?
Good idea. Chad says Calm is a fantastic resource and one of the best practical trainings out there for having those really hard conversations around reducing risk. Chad, do you have a link for that people could go to that you could post in the chat?
Hey, Carrie, I'll get that put in there.
Awesome. Okay, Miss Cheryl, we are ready for you now. You can go ahead and start sharing your screen and proceed when you're ready.
Okay, let's see. How are we looking there?
Looks good. Looks good on
Okay,
my
and I like Michelle's style. I think I'll present myself at the end. I like that. And Michele, you think you talk fast. I'm like you. I've got a lot of information. Our team has been busy for the last 3 years, and there's just so much to talk about. And then I laughed about your comment of farmers being irritable, because my dad's never irritable on the farm. So, goodness sakes. Yes, I am Dr. Cheryl Witt, and I am an assistant professor at the University of Louisville School of Nursing. And I'm project director for the Raising Hope initiative in our state of Kentucky. What I'm going to do is discuss how our multidisciplinary team in Kentucky has and continues to address the safety and health, both physical and mental, of our farmers and farm families in the state to keep our farmers on the farm as long as they possibly can. As most of you that are attending this webinar know, farmers and farm families are a culture in and of itself, and promoting health and an encouragement of health-seeking behaviors can prove to be quite an exciting endeavor. Farmers want to be able to get up, do the work that's part of their heart and soul, and this is how they define their health status, by their degree of ability to perform their farm work. And Michele mentioned this as well. Mental health is at our forefront of the public health, of all the public health epidemics. And although our current project in Kentucky is focused on the reduction of stress, depression, and suicide rates among farmers and farm family, our mission for our team is to support the overall health in any way we can, because mental health is affected by other aspects of health. And an imbalance in one aspect of health can bleed and affect other areas and affect that farmer's overall health. So our team had to make some decisions about how we were going to address this issue of the stress and depressive symptoms. Who were we going to address and bring information to? Where were we going to do it? We had a lot of, there's so many factors, and we had a lot of decisions to make. And so we could improve the overall health and ultimately the mental health of our farmers. So you remember I mentioned exciting endeavor. Well, getting information to farmers in a form that is receptive is one of those such endeavors. And interesting enough, in the research I've looked at, even as far back as like the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, up until the most recent research, is farmers' preference in receiving information is from persons they feel to be key influencers, and they're credible and trusted folks. And so that could be fellow producers, extension agents, feed companies, veterinarians, or other ag specialists. And the sources they feel most is the face-to-face as the top choice of receiving information. And to continue with that, sources of information, again, has not changed too much. If they want to get information on a new farm practice, they prefer maybe an on-farm demonstration or a tour of another farm over some type of mass media. However, as technology has evolved, we have seen farmers use more social media and digital sources than they have in the past. Then it's like, where can we bring this information to that we're going to have the largest impact or bang for our buck, and in an environment that farmer is going to be receptive to the information? So farmers can be most receptive when we can meet the farmers where they are at, literally and culturally. They'll often talk to you if you meet them at a geographic location where they're going to be anyway, but we want, and they're comfortable in those environments, so that makes them more receptive. But we always want to be respectful of whatever task they're performing at the time, what time of year it is, if it's harvest time. And again, at environments where they're going to be anyway. So, and we definitely do not want to waste their time. I'm sure if we did, we would be told or dismissed to move on. So in all of our decision makings, we also knew that we wanted to be sure and prioritize our efforts. We wanted to support all the farmers and farm families across our state, but we certainly want to be sure to saturate those areas with the greatest need of help. So part of our multidisciplinary team established a formula that was based on the number of farms in a county, the number of farmers in a county, mortality count, mortality rate, morbidity rate, morbidity count. And then this formula assigned indicators to each of the counties of either 3, 2, 1, or no indicators. And those with the 3 indicators were then ranked as higher on the priority list. So we wanted to make sure to target efforts there. So when we ended up, we had a list of the top 56 counties. So what areas would we address in attempts to address the stress, depression, and suicide rates in our farmers? We had to make a decision about that. And what better way to find that out than to ask farmers? So again, part of our multidisciplinary team conducted focus groups with farmers who felt that they were not appreciated for what they did and dealt with on a day-to-day basis, that the non-farming public had no idea what they dealt with. They didn't know what it took to get food to their table. So the farmers felt if we could increase an awareness of the problem at hand and increase the information to the non-farming public about what farmers do, and decrease that stigma of seeking help for mental health issues, and show appreciation for our farmers, because they felt like people did not recognize the importance that the farmers play in their local communities, state, nation, and or worldwide. So we kept all of this in mind in the areas of prevention, intervention, postvention, and data collection in the planning of addressing depression and suicide rates in our farmers. And so our team of experts strategically developed programs that fell into these categories. And some of these I'm going to discuss over the next few slides, but truly in a general sense, because we have done so much and it would be impossible to discuss in detail over the in this time slot. I'm free. I'll have my contact information at the end of the presentation, and you can feel free to contact me and ask me anything you need to. Our education, which we felt was very important, was tiered and geared to those individuals and groups that farmers and farm families would interact with on a day-to-day basis at the community level that we discussed previously, and then at the ag business level. And then we also included healthcare provider level when we started talking about education. So, for example, groups of persons who were key persons in the ag community were recruited to learn to teach QPR in agricultural communities across the state. And to increase awareness of the issue and assist persons who interact with farmers on a day-to-day basis in the community to be more comfortable in recognizing, intervening, and discussing persons in a crisis. We did add an ag component to help non-farmers better understand the culture of farming and farm life. The next layer of education was applied to those who would be interacting with farmers who did seek health care. And so one of our team members developed an interactive online training module for healthcare providers and paraprofessionals about preventing farmer suicide through cultural respect, understanding, sensitivity, and humility. And the goal of this education was to assist healthcare providers to provide care through a lens of cultural humility. To encompass that personal, face-to-face, intimate interactions that farmers prefer, one of our members of our team uses a challenge coin as a discussion starter and shakes the hand of the recipient and hands off the coin as a reminder of continued support. And so, as you can see, over just the last few years, we have increased our efforts, programs, and training considerably each time we were able to receive some funding. Gray represents what we are able to continue or to expand, and the darker green are the newer programs. And this is just 3 years of work because we truly do have a brilliant, innovative team. We have also increased our number of partners because as more people across the state are aware that there is an issue or problem, more people want to support our farmers across the Commonwealth. But my big emphasis is that working together with an interdisciplinary team is the key. Don't reinvent the wheel. If behavioral health has information or training already established, figure out how to use that training and deliver it into the ag community and base it on some of those preferences I discussed earlier about how farmers prefer to get information. And yeah, and that's what I mean. Remember those key components of communicating with farmers. But that's not all we've been doing. I mean, we've been crazy busy over the last few years. We know in rural areas that 61% of healthcare needs go unmet for a variety of different reasons. Lack of available practitioners, travel time, no insurance, underinsured, or as we've tried to explain to our students when discussing health in the ag world, if you've got hay on the ground and it's getting ready to rain, that appointment is going to be canceled. And if it's rescheduled, who knows how long it's going to be before you can get in. So many times it's just pushed to the side. So again, we take the services to the farmer. We meet them where they're at. So we have provided blood pressure, glucose, and carotid artery screenings, and we take our education with us. I really could talk on and on, but we've already made a difference, and we continue to receive texts, emails, and phone calls to thank us, all members of our team, for what we have done and stories that from these folks that we have made a significant impact on the physical and mental health of our farmers across the state. And as we continue to grow, more, again, people have become involved. And we want farmers to feel and know that there's a whole state of people that support them. We also teach our nursing students about occupational health and farming as an occupation in the classroom, and then tour a farm and observe that farm through an occupational lens. Students are then able to listen to the farmer tell what they do and deal with on a day-to-day basis, and describe and sometimes see what the farmer does on that day-to-day basis. So during the discussion and the tour, The students observe again from occupational risk and safety perspective. Then they're able to purchase items from that farmer. So students are able to enhance their cultural humility to add to their nursing practice. The non-farmer becomes more aware of what it takes to get food to the table and the importance of farming to our economy. The farmers feel appreciated. I knew what impact it made on our students. I just didn't realize the impact it made on our farmers until when I was finalizing the details of a visit with one female farmer. She said, "I'm just glad someone cares." As far as I'm concerned, that's our mission accomplished. We have hit all three of our areas that are listed at the top. Here's just a few more pictures of, bringing the students to the farm, and the farmer will participate. So what does this all mean to you? Well, what this means is all of us have a role in some form or fashion in supporting each other to make an impact on our farmers and teaching non-farmers what farmers do and deal with on a day-to-day basis, where our food comes from. You need to influence as many persons as within your circle. If one person learns from you, that's a job that's well done. And this is why I do what I do. We need to make sure that our farmers, our people, my own people, gain from all of this. Some things are just worth fighting for. And I'm proud to be a farmer. And I'm so proud to be talking to all of you today. And I thank you and appreciate the work that you all are doing out to help our farmers in the world. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you for sharing that, Cheryl. If you missed it, her project is called Raising Hope. So Cheryl, when you put your contact information in the chat, go ahead and if you can put a link to that as well. And I used to work in the medical field as well, and I learned there that education is key in anything. It just is. So I absolutely love that the nurses are physically going out to the farm and seeing the stressors that the farmers have on a day-to-day basis. I think that's a key implement in their training.
Well, I agree, but we also have to remember when we educate farmers on different changes in their health care or health behaviors, we also have to remember, in fact, I always say, all of us know what we're supposed to have eaten for breakfast this morning. And if I took a poll, there's no telling what we would get, even though we all know, we've been educated, we know the 4 food groups. And so we have to present information in a way that it's receptive to people. And they want to make a change. So, and again, provide information. I always tell the farmers, we're not preaching here, and because I dare any of y'all to go tell a farmer what they need to be doing. So we provide it and let them do what they want to do with it. And hopefully they're receptive.
Very true, very true. Anybody have any questions for Cheryl?
Hey, Cheryl, you mentioned the importance of educating the general population about farm stress and farm mental health challenges and behavioral health challenges. Just curious if you guys out in Kentucky have had any success doing some community organizing around that type of education, and if so, what have you done to bring people together?
Well, here's a great example. We've actually done, and this happens every single time we go to this farm. So with the student tour, for example, we go to, I work with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and one of the ladies that's there, she organizes whatever farms we're going to go to. She talks to the farmers before and arranges everything. And so we go often to a farm that was a dairy, and it was a generational dairy. And so when the students first get there, the young couple comes out and he starts to talk, and I'll probably get emotional. He starts to tell about the day they got the letter from Dean milk. And every single time without fail, this young man gets very emotional, and sometimes his parents are there with him, and even the dad will get emotional. And so then his wife sometimes will have to take over and talk. And the students are so taken in by this when you can see what reality is. And as he expresses his feelings, it hits them hard. And well, I cry every time. I mean, I just can't help it. But you can't write that down in a book. Mm-hmm. And I think, and I'm looking forward to some newer projects that we have coming out where farmers are going to interact. We have one group doing a peer-to-peer mobile app. So hopefully people will be able to, the farmers will be able to discuss between themselves in private groups on a cell phone. And then one person would be able to record farmers telling their story, like this young dairy farmer. So people can recognize they're not alone. And then we would strategically put those in places where a lot of farmers are going to be, let's say stockyards, and it would play over and over. So there are so many avenues that have, but that one where it's just, you can't write it in a book. It just, they will never forget that. Yeah. So
thanks.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, Cheryl, we thank you so much for sharing your project with us. We are going to round out the hour with Mr. Chuck Strand from Rural Minds. September is Suicide Prevention Month, so we're promoting a lot about that. So Chuck has a webinar, which I'm already registered for next week, and he's just going to give a little shout out about that webinar next week.
Well, thanks, Carrie. Yeah, my name is Chuck Strand with Rural Minds. And before I do the shout out for the webinar, I just want to say thank you to you, Carrie and Tara, and everyone on the call, because every time I join these calls, it's just amazing to see what's out there, all the people that are doing amazing work. And you know, Rural Minds is all about collaboration, partnership, and not reinventing the wheel. And that same theme is you know, repeated throughout so many presentations. And it's just really this forum that you provide is very valuable for me personally. I have no doubt everybody on the call. So thank you for doing that. We are, in the spirit of partnership, we are working with the National Grange, which is a national organization that's founded like in 1867, I believe, and they have a focus on local presence, and their roots are in agriculture. They also do a lot of work in DC for advocacy that impacts rural America. But we are partnering with the National Grange on several different initiatives and under the banner of Growing Hope Together. And we are launching the Rural Suicide Awareness and Prevention Program this month, of course, and that's launching with a webinar. But this is an ongoing program that will be on both organizations' websites and updated content. So I just wanted to mention that too. I'll put the link to the webinar in the chat, and please, you know, we invite you to register, no charge, if you want to promote it through your network. We are really pleased to have three presenters from that are affiliated with I believe that, well, I know that Monica Kramer McConkey was a speaker on this forum a couple weeks ago, or she's been months ago, and she's amazing and has graciously agreed to be a presenter on the webinar, in addition to Nathan Lawson. I'm not sure if Nathan has been part of this group, but he is a rancher in Kentucky and a farmer, and also a big advocate of rural suicide agricultural prevention. So we're very pleased to have both of those folks, in addition to one of the chapter leaders for the Grange, Mary Rapar, who's in Stevenson, Washington, a very small town in rural Washington state. And she heard about the partnership between the Grange and Rural Minds, and just called us and said, we'd love to be part of this webinar too. So we're pleased to have all those folks. So thanks again. I'll put the link to the chat, and appreciate the opportunity.
All right. right. We always appreciate you, Sharon. You guys do great work over there. I do want to invite everyone to register for Chuck's webinar and our safety week. And if you'll just go to agrisafe.org, they're going to double check. Somebody was having trouble registering for it, and just make sure that that link works correctly. And we will be sending out the YouTube recording of this meeting. So if anybody in your organization did not get to come in person today, just go ahead and forward that link out to them. And I think that's it. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to shout them out to anybody. We love that you come every month and share. And we're always looking for unique topics, unique speakers. Right now, we do have everyone scheduled through December. So starting in January, we'll be looking for new speakers. So feel free to send me someone or a topic that you think would be pertinent to our meetings, and we'll go ahead and try to get them scheduled. All right, Chuck has that link in the chat. So I'll stay on a few minutes for those who need that link or have any questions. Thank you, everyone.
And Carrie, I put the agrisafe.org homepage link in there as well.
Wonderful.
Try to
Okay.
access it. Thank y'all.
Did you do your interview already, Tara?
No, they were a little bit delayed. So as soon as I get off, they have until 11:45 Central Standard Time. So
Okay.
I was
Okay.
using the opportunity to pull up my my cheat notes that Laura's put together for us. Thanks. This was great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else, you've got everything set up. So
Yeah, we're good to go. I don't think we needed to brief out over anything. I have everything set up to the end of the year. So as long as nobody cancels. And Frank did
Yeah.
say he would join in January if he could.
Oh,
He'd make
perfect.
it
Well,
up
this
to us. Yeah.
actually, you had a full slate even
We
without
did.
him today. Yes, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. So, okay, well, we'll work together on probably that last AgriStress meeting, last maybe couple of